What's up, residents? Alistair back once again, here to talk about the upcoming entry in the Monsterverse, Godzilla vs Kong, and some potentially bad or good news depending on how you look at it. But before we get right into that, make sure to check out our line of merch over on Teespring. Tons of you have already said how much you like the shirts, like the God of the Titans and the Medallion of Titans line of clothing. Jacob and I have spent weeks perfecting it, so we're super glad that you're enjoying them and not burning them in a pile somewhere. Links, as always, will be in the description. Now let's get to it. So here we are, without any trailer for Godzilla vs Kong, and unfortunately we have some potentially bad news. Many of you might know about Soul, the upcoming movie from Walt Disney and Pixar Animations, and just to catch you up to speed on that, this is the synopsis. Joe Gardner, a middle school music teacher, has long dreamed of performing jazz music on stage, finally gets a chance after impressing other jazz musicians during an opening act at the Half Note Club. However, an untimely accident causes Gardner's soul to be separated from his body and begin to proceed to the great beyond. Gardner escapes to the great before, a world where souls develop personalities, quirks, and traits before being sent off to Earth. There, Gardner must work with souls in training at the Great Before, such as 22, a soul with a dim view on the concept of life, in order to return to Earth before his body dies. This film, for the most part, actually looks really great, and I fully expect it to tug at the heartstrings. But you're probably wondering why the hell I'm talking about a Pixar film on a Godzilla channel.
Get on with it! Yes! Get on with it!
Well, the thing about it is...
Get on with it!
Alright, Jesus!
Its release date has been moved from the original date of June 19th, 2020, all the way to a date that monster fans are all waiting for, November 20th, 2020. Literally the same day as Godzilla vs Kong's release. Disney's options were unfortunately limited in all fairness, and I do sympathise with the fact that they've been backed up into a corner due to this dreaded situation we're all in, involving a certain corona-related product that everyone seems to hate. Like, come on guys, the beer isn't that bad. Distributors are desperately trying to avoid the virus at all costs, and for good reason. Cinemas will likely still be closed for another few months, leading to all the film studios scheduling their films' release dates for the end of the year, which has now led to November and December essentially being this year's summer when it comes to film releases. Any time before November is still a risky move, as people may still be wary of gathering in great numbers for films, theatre productions, concerts, and other large events. But releasing one big film on the same day as another can be damaging in a multitude of ways for the film's box office run. Too many options will cause the potentially large audience to spread across a variety of films on the market. This is exactly what happened to Godzilla King of the Monsters. Too much choice caused the total box office numbers to be lower than what they should have been. Though with all things considered, the film did better than it should have, since it was one of the few films that season that actually earned a small profit, going up against The Lion King, John Wick 3, Aladdin, Toy Story 4, Avengers Endgame, Men in Black International, Detective Pikachu, Rocketman, and much more. And the issue with Soul is that because it's a much safer option for families to go to, that film will absorb a fairly large audience that otherwise would see Godzilla vs Kong. This is exactly what Aladdin did prior to Godzilla King of the Monsters release, with that film earning over $1 billion, leaving Godzilla with only $385 million. And since Soul appeals to a much wider general audience than something like Godzilla vs Kong, it will likely take the crown of #1 film in the world, taking the option of using that as a marketing strategy to promote the film away from Legendary Pictures. And before you say they appeal to different audiences, the actual audience that want to see Godzilla vs Kong is relatively small compared to the massive number of general moviegoers that Legendary needs in order to earn its money back and to assure the Monsterverse has a future in Hollywood. Though we have some relatively good news for the release date of Godzilla vs Kong, as another Disney film, Raya and the Last Dragon, has had its release date moved from November 27th to March 12th, 2021. This gives Godzilla vs Kong a bit more room to breathe in November, giving the audience a much more fine-tuned selection of films. However, the upcoming James Bond film, No Time to Die, still stands as a prominent contender for the action thriller crowd, releasing on November 25th, a mere 5 days after Godzilla vs Kong and Soul's release. So to sum up the November releases as it currently stands, we have Black Widow on November 6th, Clifford the Big Red Dog on November 13th, Godzilla vs Kong and Soul on November 20th, and No Time to Die releasing on November 25th. But is there a way to fix Godzilla vs Kong's release date? I've seen a lot of people say the film should be delayed by several months to avoid competition, though competition is unfortunately unavoidable. There will always be competition, and plus another few months will just be unbearable. I think simply delaying it to early December is a much more reasonable and less drastic option. Avoiding No Time to Die and Soul's release, giving Godzilla vs. Kong a good amount of time to soak up the market's attention, allowing it to become the #1 film in the world, even if it's for a short period of time. It also allows for a lengthier run in the IMAX screens, not being interrupted by the release of James Bond, which will replace Godzilla vs. Kong in most IMAX screens. It does mean that it'll miss Thanksgiving, however I believe that being moved to a more free time with less competition will benefit more in the long run than one specific day. Also, being closer to Christmas will open up to a large audience that spend their time at the cinema during that festive day. In December, the only films it will have to compete with are Free Guy and Samaritan on December 11th, which won't be gigantic films like No Time to Die and Soul, as well as Dune and West Side Story, which release on December 18th, as well as Top Gun Maverick and The Croods 2, which are coming on December 23rd. Giving Godzilla a good 3 weeks before any significant competition comes up, which in my opinion is far better than the position it's currently in. We all know that the distributors at Warner Bros. Are watching the situation very closely and making decisions on what to do with the release date as we speak, whether that be moving it or keeping it where it is. One thing that gives us hints to whether the film will be delayed is that Dune, another upcoming Warner Bros. Property, which looks great by the way, releases on 18th of December and has already had some images of the film released, with a new poster officially announced and its trailer potentially right around the corner. As it stands, that film comes out after Godzilla vs. Kong, so it seems rather bizarre that the film would have already begun its marketing campaign, and we have yet to see even a glimpse of Godzilla vs. Kong outside of some leaked images. This makes me think that Warner Bros. Is being far more cautious with the marketing, or that they're planning on moving it to a better date. I do hope that someone from Warner Bros. Is watching this and takes my advice by moving the film to early December, which in my eyes is a much better date, for the audience and from a business perspective. Films being spread out means the audience feel less flustered when it comes to making a decision on what to watch, so I believe it will greatly benefit Godzilla vs. Kong and allow it to blossom on its own to be the must-see film of that season. So that about wrapped it up for today's news video. Rather bleak unfortunately, but with some potentially good news, and just my 2 cents regarding the release date and where it may perform better. We're all very passionate about the film and of course just want it to succeed, but we have to remember to stay civil and just do what we can, which is get hyped and go watch the film when it comes out. But more importantly than any piece of entertainment is of course our health during this time of the coronavirus. Make sure to stay healthy, both mentally and physically during this difficult time. Isolation can be very hard for many of us, but we are here for you residents, and make sure to just do what makes you happy. Stay safe, stay happy. But what do you guys think about the release date? Do you think it should be moved to early December, or should it stick with the current plan, or even be moved back by another few months? Let us know in the comment section down below. If you learned something new, feel free to leave a like, it helps us out a lot. And of course, remember to subscribe and stomp that notification button to become a resident of our lovely town of Dangerville today. I've been your host Alistair, and we'll see you in the next one.